Welcome back. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shanna Register, and today we are talking about crime and different things that have to do with crime and go along with crime. And really, it's very important for buyers to know when they are looking at houses, what's going on in the areas of town that they're looking at putting in a house, and also for people who are building businesses, you want to know where you're putting your business, how the crime is as well. So there are a lot of websites and different places you can go for information. And we, later in the show, are going to have Sheriff Adrian Garcia on. So right now I want to talk with Constable Ron Hickman and just give us some information as consumers on how your department works with and relates to the Sheriff's Department, because I know y'all have to work very closely together.
Yes, Shannon, actually we have for many years had a great working relationship with the sheriff, and Sheriff Adrian Garcia very much the same. Our officers on the street and in the field have a great working relationship together. As you know, many of the communities in this area have contracts with both the sheriff and our office, and due to the density of population in this area, it's absolutely imperative that we both communicate and work closely in a variety of different initiatives.
So, Constable Hickman, what area of town do you work? Is it all of Harris County, part of Harris County? Where do you work?
My area is predominantly from the Beltway north to the Montgomery County line, and from Lake Houston on the east side to 290 in the Waller area on the far west side.
Okay, and how many people do you have working for you?
We're in the 820-some thousand.
A lot of people.
Probably larger than about 20 states, and
wow,
very dense population in 500 square miles or so.
It's a lot of people to keep up with.
It's a lot of people.
A lot of crime.
Yeah, a lot to say grace over.
So the crime in our area, I mean, we do have a lot of crime. We're a big city, so we have a lot of crime, but I know that y'all are doing a lot to cut back on that, and you do a lot to solve the crimes in the area. Tell us about some of the things that y'all are doing.
Well, we have a number of initiatives that put us working hand in hand with the Sheriff's Office. Of course, the majority of things that the average person would come into contact in criminal activity, when your car is broken into or your home is broken into, a lot of that work is done right there on the local level, and the Sheriff's Office has burglary detectives and other initiatives that track those kinds of particular crime. But many of those things are done by either kids or people from the community, and being close to the community, guys that work in the same neighborhoods, that know the kids, know the cars that belong there, have great working relationships with the community, and get a lot of their information from that relationship. So we're able to solve a lot of those crimes right there with the deputies working in the field. And
y'all do a lot of your own investigations, or because when you call 911, you know, like as a consumer, you don't necessarily know if a sheriff's going to show up or if a constable's going to show up. So when constables do show up, do they do their own investigations, or do they pass it off? In many of the cases, they'll do their own investigations. Okay. I mean, we want to be as good a steward as possible with the meager resources that all of us have to work with. And the sheriff has a large detective division that's better suited for lengthy and complex investigations, homicides, aggravated robberies, bank robberies, aggravated sexual assaults, and so forth. So we may do the front end investigation and toss it off. We're on the same computer system. We share information back and forth quite a bit. And same training as well? Yeah, exact same training. Okay. And our requirements to be hired are a little stiffer in some cases. We require a couple of years of college, a couple of years of prior military experience or prior experience as a peace officer. And we try to look for and screen, just as a sheriff does, to find the good candidates. And in today's market, that continues to be challenging. Yeah. You've got quite a large workforce, though, and you have different precincts that you work out of in this area. So it's not just one location. You have a lot of different locations working together. So how do you coordinate such a large effort? Well, the communications is a key to that, obviously. I have several stations, and as you imagine, covering an area with 800,000 plus people does require some resources. And we have a variety of storefront operations that puts us out in the community where the people are. And we found that to be a successful method of operation, so that the deputies that work in the field don't have to travel 40 or 50 miles to get to a station and going back and forth to the reports. So we've leveraged technology as best we can to make sure that we keep those guys out working where they need to be. That's good. And that's an important part of our approach, is to make sure that
we give them the resources they need out where they work so they can do their job without, traveling back and forth to do reports and drop off evidence and those kinds of things. So we have about 6 or 7 of those storefront stations in addition to the 2 main station annexes we have at the courthouse complexes in Humble and on Cypress Wood.
Now, tell me about how you work with homeowners associations and med districts, because I know here in our area, a lot of the different homeowners associations partner with the constable's office or the sheriff, whoever they're going to partner with for security. But normally they're paying someone to be in their neighborhood for security. How does that system work, and is it working well?
It actually works very well. Almost half of all of the street-level law enforcement in this county is supported by financial assistance from some group, either homeowner association, municipal utility district, or school district. So of the 2,000 or so street-level police officers, half of those are provided for through contracts with homeowner associations, civic associations, municipal utility districts, and so forth. So it is an absolutely crucial component to successfully providing law enforcement resources at the street level. You can imagine what it would cost to pay for 1,000 additional patrol officers and the resources and equipment if the county had to absorb that. We're talking in the tens of millions of dollars.
Do you think that those neighborhoods that don't partner with you guys, do you think that they have a slower response time? Or because the way that I understand it is that if your neighborhood is contracted, then you've got somebody who responds to those calls unless it's a 911 unless it's an emergency, something you need a first responder. But otherwise, if it's somebody broke into a home, it's usually that person who's in that neighborhood most of the time who's coming to respond to it. So for the neighborhoods that don't have someone there all the time responding, is there a slower response time?
I would think it'd be a natural assumption that the response time would be slightly slower. Having someone that is right there in your neighborhood, obviously you're going to
knows your streets inside and out.
Yeah, knows the shortcuts through your community. Probably going to get there a little quicker. Some of the factors that would influence how much different would be maybe how close your community is to one that has a contract deputy program.
Okay.
So if you're in a non-contract area and you happen to be co-located right contiguous to a subdivision that has one, your response time is probably better than one, say, in a far corner of the precinct or county where limited resources are available.
Yeah, so I think for buyers checking out neighborhoods, that's one thing that they need to look at is your HOA or your med district contracting with a local constable's office so that someone's in the neighborhood. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, and we also encourage people, real estate folks, communities that need to know, to go to crimereports.com to research exactly what kind of crime is in your community. All of the Harris County agencies submit their criminal activity information to that website 3 times a day. So it's actually probably some of the more current information available to the people in the buyer's market, if you will. If you're looking to rent an apartment or buy a home, you certainly want to know what kind of activity is going to be, where you plan to live, where your kids plan to go to school. You can place email alerts, so if something is to happen where your child goes to school or close to where you live, it'll actually alert you of that.
Oh, that's great.
It's a really handy resource to have. So our real estate market folks tend to like it. So do apartment associations and apartment owners. So it is an actually great resource to use. We have such a large part of the county that is unincorporated, so that county law enforcement resources are the only resources available to respond in these areas. So even though we're not a municipality, they tend to expect the kind of resources that would be available through a county. But Harris County tries to provide sufficient law enforcement resources, but these contract areas have decided to impact their own destiny by financially contributing to the cost of their law enforcement services, and actually helps provide additional resources for other areas. We're freeing up a resource from one place that's paying for their own so that we can place them somewhere else.
Well, I think it's good, too, because whoever's patrolling your neighborhood, they know about all the different break-ins that have gone on there, and so they have an idea about them. They're not having to go research and find out and try to link them together. They're very familiar and know exactly what's going on in that neighborhood, and I think it makes it easier for them to solve those crimes and investigate those crimes.
Well, and the tendency is to have a deputy who stays in a contract area for a long time. I've had deputies who retired working in one spot.
Is it normally their neighborhood?
No, not neighborhood.
Okay.
Sometimes it works out that way, and you get to liking a neighborhood well enough, and
you move into it.
But, I've had guys 18, 20 years in the same contract. Well, now you're dealing with generations of kids. The kids that you dealt with as teenagers now have gone on, college and got married, and they're having kids of their own now. So, the continuity of personnel in those areas is a great byproduct of the contract program, because they know which kids belong, which ones don't.
Right.
What cars you normally would see in an area. So it is a great asset having that continuity there.
Yeah, I think it's great. The patrol officer in my neighborhood stopped by one day because our fence latch was broken, and so the fence was open. So he stopped by and just wanted to make sure everything was okay, because the fence was open, and the fence isn't normally open. The gate's not normally open. So, I think that's what you get when you have contract peace officers in the neighborhood. I think it is great, because they are aware and they watch out and they know what's going on. And
you get that familiarity. You see the same guy time in, time day out. The kids are more likely to build a relationship with that individual. And you see a child walking down the street at 11 o'clock at night. You know where he belongs there or not.
Right.
And maybe where he even
important.
lives. And I think it is an absolutely vital part of the process, so that they build a bond with that community. I've had communities that did retirement parties for these deputies after they left, and they're absolutely proud when their guy gets promoted. In looking for opportunities for them. So it's a great program. It's been around for going on 40 years. Been very successful, and was actually, I think, spearheaded in the north part of the county.
In the neighborhoods that don't use it, you think it's just lack of funds?
Well, it's a variety of things. Every community is unique. They all have different hot buttons and different priorities. It may be an issue where they've reached a point in time where their pool needs a tremendous amount of reworking, and if you have to redo a pool and build new pumps, and if it's your lighting or your medians or your trees, there are a variety of issues. And trying to maintain the quality of life in a community, life cycle of a community is another thing. As communities age, there's a lot more work to be done to keep things up to code. So it's a challenging issue to have to deal with. I spent some time as president of a homeowners group, so I can understand.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
A lot of work and a lot of people to try to satisfy. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. Ron Hickman was here. He is the constable over our area of Harris County, where our office is, where we broadcast from. So we're excited to have you on the show, and appreciate all of the information that you bring us, because so many people do have questions about who's going to be coming when I dial 911, and during those emergency times, that's what you want to know, is who's coming.
You hope it's a guy with a uniform and it gets there quick.
That's right. Well,
thank you for having me.
All right. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio, and we'll be right back.